The quantum anomaly detector chimed for the third time that day, its holographic display pulsing with an unfamiliar pattern that made Dr. Sarah Chen's heart skip a beat. After 15 years of studying deep space quantum signatures aboard humanity's most advanced research station, Genesis Point, she thought she'd seen every possible configuration of quantum entanglement. This was different. Computer, run diagnostic sequence beta 7 on the QAD array, she commanded, her fingers dancing across the haptic interface. The station's AI responded immediately, projecting a complex web of data streams into the air around her workstation. The readings were consistent. This wasn't an equipment malfunction. The signature appeared to be organized, almost like Dr. Chen. The station's AI interrupted her thoughts. I've detected a pattern within the quantum fluctuations. It appears to be a form of communication. Sarah straightened in her chair, her exhaustion forgotten. Show me the pattern analysis. The holographic display shifted, revealing a rhythmic sequence that couldn't possibly be natural. As she watched, the pattern repeated itself with subtle variations, like words in an unknown language. "Get me Station Commander Hayes," she said, her voice steady despite the excitement building in her chest. "And wake up Dr. Kumar from cryosleep. We're going to need our best linguist for this." Within an hour, Genesis Point's primary conference room had transformed into an impromptu first contact center. Commander Jessica Hayes stood at the head of the table, her weathered face illuminated by the quantum signature display floating above them. Dr. Raj Kumar, still showing signs of cryofog, hunched over his datapad, algorithms attempting to decode the signal. "It's definitely artificial," Sarah explained, highlighting specific segments of the pattern. "The quantum entanglement is too precise, too structured. Whatever's generating this has technology at least as advanced as ours, probably more so." "Hostile?" Hayes asked, her military training evident in her clipped tone. Sarah shook her head. "I don't think so. The energy signature is minimal, just enough to carry the message. If they wanted to attack, there are more efficient ways to use quantum technology." "Got something," Kumar announced, his voice rough from cryosleep. The computers identified repeating elements that could be linguistic markers. "It's using them to build a basic translation matrix." The room fell silent as Kumar worked, the only sound the soft hum of the station's environmental systems. Sarah found herself holding her breath as the first translated fragments appeared on the main display. "Request, asylum, pursued, help." Hayes leaned forward, her expression grave. "Asylum. They're refugees." Before anyone could respond, new quantum signatures flared on the detection grid. Unlike the delicate patterns of the first signal, these were harsh, aggressive spikes that made the sensors scream in protest. "Multiple quantum wake signatures detected," the station AI announced. 8 vessels, configuration unknown, approaching at relativistic speeds. Estimated arrival, 47 minutes. "The pursuit they mentioned," Sarah whispered. Hayes was already moving. "Sound General Quarters. Get me Earth Command on Quantum Com. Dr. Chen, Dr. Kumar. I need to know everything about that first signal. Who they are, what they're running from, and what kind of trouble they're bringing to our doorstep." The next 40 minutes passed in a blur of activity. The translation matrix improved rapidly as more of the refugee signal was decoded. They called themselves the Aetheri, a species of energy-sensitive beings who had refused to submit to something called the Nexer Dominion. The pursuing ships belonged to the Dominion's compliance fleet. "They're not just refugees," Kumar explained, his earlier grogginess replaced by intense focus. "According to this, the Aetheri are scientists, researchers. They've made breakthroughs in quantum physics that the Dominion wants to weaponize." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "And when they refused, the Dominion decided to take it by force," Hayes finished. Earth Command's response. "Still waiting," the AI reported. "Quantum interference is unusually high. The pursuing vessels may be deliberately disrupting communications." Hayes swore under her breath. "Time to arrival." 7 minutes. The ethery vessel will reach us first, in approximately 3 minutes. Sarah studied the quantum readings from the approaching ships. The ethery vessel's signature was elegant, efficient, a testament to their scientific advancement. The Dominion ships, by contrast, blazed like quantum bonfires, raw power without finesse. "Commander," she said slowly, an idea forming. "The Dominion ships, they're using brute force quantum drives. Powerful, but not very sophisticated. If we could." A new alarm cut through the station, and the main viewport, automatically polarized as a flash of brilliant light, announced the arrival of the ethery ship. It was beautiful. A crystalline structure that seemed to flow like liquid metal, its surface rippling with patterns of energy that reminded Sarah of the quantum signature that had first caught her attention. "Ethery vessel is requesting emergency docking," the AI announced. "Their quantum drive is critical." Hayes stood straight, a decision visible in her stance. "Grant them docking clearance. Dr. Chen, whatever idea you were about to suggest, now would be a good time. Dr. Kumar, keep working on that translation matrix. We're about to need it." As Sarah rushed to her quantum lab, she could feel the weight of what was coming. Humanity's first contact was about to become a test of not just their technology, but their principles. The Nexer Dominion was about to learn that humans didn't take kindly to bullies, no matter what galaxy they came from. Behind her, the station's docking alarms began to sound, announcing the arrival of their first alien visitors, and the beginning of a crisis that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Through the observation window, Sarah caught her first glimpse of an ethery as they emerged from their ship. The alien being seemed to shimmer, its form partially translucent and flowing with patterns of light that reminded her of the quantum signatures she'd been studying. In that moment, she knew that whatever came next, humanity had a duty to protect these refugees, not just because it was right, but because the advancement of science itself might depend on it. The Nexer Dominion ships were now just minutes away, and with them would come humanity's first diplomatic crisis of the Galactic Age. But as Sarah watched the ethery being guided to safety, she smiled. The Dominion was about to learn why so many human idioms involved the phrase, "necessity is the mother of invention." Commander James Rodriguez arrived at the quantum lab to find an unusual scene. Dr. Sarah Chen and 3 ethery researchers were manipulating what appeared to be solid light, their movements creating complex patterns in the air between them. The ethery's translucent forms pulsed with intense blues and greens, their natural bioluminescence reflecting their deep concentration. "Dr. Chen," he called out, careful not to disrupt whatever delicate process was underway, "please tell me you have something that will prevent an interstellar war in the next 6 hours." Sarah looked up, her eyes bright with the kind of excitement James had learned to both respect and fear. It usually meant she was about to suggest something either brilliant or terrifying. Sometimes both. "Better," she said, gesturing to the light patterns. "We're going to make an entire station disappear." The ethery beside her, who had introduced themselves as First Researcher Valen, rippled with patterns that the translation matrix rendered as approval. "Dr. Chen's understanding of quantum mechanics is unprecedented for a species so young," they communicated. "We had theorized this approach, but never had the military insight to implement it." James raised an eyebrow. "Explain it to a simple tactical officer." Sarah's hands danced through the holographic interface, bringing up a series of complex equations. The Nexer Dominion ships rely on quantum scanning to target their weapons. It's powerful but crude, like using a sledgehammer to conduct an orchestra. What we're proposing is more like teaching the audience not to see the orchestra at all, Valen finished, their form shimmering with excitement. "Quantum camouflage," Sarah continued. "We're not just bending light around the station, we're altering its quantum signature at a fundamental level. To their scanners, we'll simply cease to exist." James frowned, his tactical mind already analyzing potential weaknesses. "They'll know we're here." They watched the ethery dock. "That's where your military expertise comes in," Sarah said, pulling up a tactical display of the system. We don't need to convince them we're not here. We just need to make it impossible for them to prove it, or to do anything about it. The next 4 hours were a blur of activity. While Sarah and the Aethery worked on the quantum mechanics, James focused on the strategic implementation. The station's defense grid was reconfigured, its quantum signatures carefully tuned to match the camouflage system. Every crew member was briefed on new protocols. Even the smallest quantum emission could give them away. The Nexer fleet has dropped out of FTL, the station AI announced. They are holding position at the system's edge. James studied the tactical display. 8 warships, arranged in a classic attack formation. Their quantum drives pulsed with barely contained power. A deliberate show of force. They're being cautious, he noted. They expected to find a single research station, but our response to the Aethery has them wondering what else we might be hiding. Incoming transmission, the AI reported. The Nexer fleet commander is requesting immediate communication. Right on schedule, James muttered. He turned to Sarah. How long until the system is ready? She exchanged quick glances with the Aethery researchers. 20 minutes for full implementation. But James, she hesitated. Once we activate it, we can't power it down quickly. If this doesn't work, then we'll be invisible targets, he finished. Better than being visible ones. Keep working. I'll buy you time. The communications center had been transformed into a makeshift first contact protocol station. Dr. Kumar sat ready with the latest version of the translation matrix, while Commander Hayes stood before the main display, her posture radiating calm authority. The Nexer commander's image materialized, a towering figure in ceremonial battle armor, its surface crawling with status displays and weapon readouts. The translation matrix took a moment to process their first words. Research Station Genesis Point. You harbor fugitives from Nexer justice. Surrender them immediately, or face the consequences of defying the Dominion. Hayes's response was measured, carefully worded. The Aethery have requested asylum under Earth's interstellar refugee protocols. We are currently reviewing their case. There is nothing to review. The Nexer commander's armor flashed with aggressive patterns. They are criminals who have stolen vital military secrets. Return them, or we will take them by force. James watched the exchange from his tactical station, noting every detail of the Nexer's behavior. Their threats were practiced, rehearsed. They were used to intimidation working. But there was something else, a tension in their posture that suggested uncertainty. They're not used to resistance, he murmured to Kumar. And they're definitely not used to someone having technology that might match theirs. Kumar nodded, his fingers flying over his console. Their language patterns show it too. All bluster, no actual ultimatums. They're trying to figure out why we're not afraid. A light flashed on James's console. Sarah's signal. The quantum camouflage system was ready. Now came the dangerous part. Commander Hayes, he called out quietly. Recommend we move to Phase 2. Hayes gave an almost imperceptible nod, then turned back to the Nexer commander. Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify our position on this matter. The Nexer's response was cut off as Sarah activated the system. For a moment, James felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was holding its breath. Then, on his tactical display, he watched as the quantum signatures of the station and the Aethery ship simply vanished. Through the main viewport, he could see the Nexer fleet's formation suddenly tighten, their weapons charging as they realized something was happening. But their quantum scans swept harmlessly through empty space, finding nothing but background radiation where a station should be. Impossible, the Nexer commander breathed, their armor displays flickering with confusion. What have you done? Hayes smiled, and James saw in that smile the same expression that had preceded humanity's greatest technological leaps. We've done nothing but defend our guests, as any civilized species would. The question now, Commander, is what are you going to do about it? The Nexer's response was lost in a burst of static as Sarah fine-tuned the camouflage field. James watched the tactical display, noting how the Nexer ships began to shift position, trying to find any trace of their target. But the quantum camouflage held, turning humanity's first line of defense into a mystery the Dominion couldn't solve. "Now comes the real test," James said quietly. "Let's see how the Dominion handles not being the most powerful force in the room." As if in response, the Nexer fleet's quantum drives began to power up. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the Aetheri refugees, but humanity's place in a galaxy that was about to learn that sometimes the best defense was making your enemies question everything they thought they knew about power. UN's Special Envoy, Diana Patel, had seen her share of diplomatic crises during her 15 years representing Earth's interests across the solar system. But as she materialized in Genesis Point's quantum-shielded conference room via secure hologram, she knew this was different. Through the viewport, she could see the Nexer fleet's weapons charging, their hull plates glowing with contained energy. "Fascinating," she said, studying the tactical display. "They're maintaining attack formation, but their movements suggest uncertainty." "Commander Hayes, how long has it been since they lost quantum lock on the station?" 3 hours, Hayes replied, her uniform crisp despite the crisis. "They'd tried 7 different scan patterns. Dr. Chen's camouflage system has defeated them all." Diana nodded, her holographic form moving through the displays. "And our guests?" As if on cue, first researcher Valen entered the conference room, their crystalline form pulsing with complex patterns of light. The translation matrix interpreted the display as a mixture of gratitude and concern. "The Nexar will not accept their failure easily," Valen communicated. "Their entire empire is built on the assumption of technological superiority. To be outmaneuvered by a primitive species, their lights flickered in what the matrix suggested was grim amusement. Then we'll give them something else to think about," Diana said. She turned to Dr. Kumar. "Is the expanded translation matrix ready?" Kumar nodded, dark circles under his eyes testament to hours of continuous work. "We can now communicate in full diplomatic protocol mode. The matrix has mapped their formal language structures, including all status indicators and honor markers." "Good." Diana straightened, her holographic form taking on the formal posture she perfected over years of difficult negotiations. "Commander Hayes, please open a channel to the Nexer flagship. Let's show them how Earth handles diplomatic discourse." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Nexer commander. Their battle armor seemed to have acquired additional weapon systems in the past hours, a clear attempt at intimidation. "Greetings, honored commander," Diana began, her words carrying carefully calibrated status markers that the Matrix had identified as crucial to Nexer formal discourse. "I am Special Envoy Diana Patel, speaking with the full authority of Earth's United Nations Security Council." The Nexer commander's armor displays flickered with what their tactical analysts had identified as surprise. "Your station refuses our scans, hides like cowards, yet now you wish to talk." "On the contrary," Diana replied smoothly, "we wish to prevent an unfortunate misunderstanding from escalating into a regrettable incident. Perhaps we could discuss the legal precedents regarding asylum seekers in neutral territory." James Rodriguez watched from his tactical station as Diana began weaving a complex web of diplomatic protocol and interstellar law. She cited principles from a dozen Earth treaties, drawing parallels to Nexer customs that Dr. Kumar's team had decoded from their transmissions. "Remarkable," Valen communicated privately to Sarah Chen. "She fights with words the way our scientists manipulate quantum fields." Sarah smiled. "Diplomacy is just another form of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction." The discussion continued for hours. Diana never directly challenged the Nexer's authority, yet each carefully worded statement forced them to either acknowledge Earth's sovereignty or contradict their own diplomatic principles. "Your persistence is noted, Envoy Patel," the Nexer commander finally said, their armor showing signs of strain. "But you cannot protect these criminals forever. Even now, our fleet approaches optimal firing position." Diana's hologram smiled. "Aye, yes. About that." She gestured, and a new set of data appeared on the shared display. "These are quantum readings from 3 different points in your fleet's current formation. Notice anything interesting?" The commander's armor flashed with alarm patterns as they studied the data. Their ship's positions, meant to establish a perfect firing solution, had actually been subtly manipulated over hours of discussion. They were now in a formation that would cause their own quantum weapons to interfere with each other. "Impossible," the commander breathed. "Our tactical systems are quite impressive," Diana finished, "but perhaps not as infallible as you believed. Now, shall we discuss a more productive approach to this situation?" In the silence that followed, Sarah's console lit up with new readings. "Energy spike," she called out. "They're charging weapons." James's tactical display erupted with warnings as the Nexer fleet opened fire. But their shots, aimed at where their compromised systems thought the station should be, passed harmlessly through empty space. "Excellent demonstration," Diana said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "Now, would you like to see one of ours?" She nodded to Sarah, who activated a subroutine she and Valen had prepared. For a brief moment, the quantum camouflage field rippled, revealing Genesis Point's location, and the fact that the station's defense grid had a perfect targeting solution on every Nexer ship. "As you can see," Diana continued, "we could have ended this confrontation at any time. Instead, we chose discussion. That choice remains available to you, Commander. What is your response?" The Nexer commander's armor cycled through a complex series of status displays before settling into what Kumar's matrix identified as a formal acknowledgement pattern. Perhaps further discussion would be appropriate. Diana's hologram maintained perfect diplomatic posture, but those who knew her well caught the slight smile of satisfaction. "Excellent. Shall we begin with the legal definition of scientific asylum under the Galactic Concordat?" As the diplomatic exchange continued, now with a markedly different tone, James leaned over to Sarah. "You know, when they write about first contact in the history books, they never mention how much of it comes down to well-timed demonstrations of force you hope you never have to use." Sarah watched as Diana continued to dismantle the Nexer's arguments with the same precision their quantum camouflage had shown. Sometimes the best way to prevent a fight is to make absolutely clear how it would end. Through it all, Valen observed with growing amazement as humanity demonstrated that true power came not just from technology, but from knowing how and when to use it. The Nexer were about to learn that in their haste to prove their superiority, they had instead discovered something far more valuable, a species worthy of their respect. The warning came 3 minutes before the attack. Sarah Chen was reviewing quantum field modifications with Valen when every sensor in her lab suddenly spiked red. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," the station AI announced. "Nexer reinforcements dropping out of FTL." Commander Hayes's voice cut through the chaos. "All hands to battle stations." "Dr. Chen, status of the camouflage system." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, Valen's crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns beside her. "Stable, but the current configuration won't hide us from a fleet that size. We need more power." Through the viewport, space itself seemed to tear as 5 massive Nexer dreadnoughts materialized. Each was easily 3 times the size of the original vessels, their hull plating crawling with weapon systems that made their previous opponents look like scout ships. "Diplomatic channel terminated," Dr. Kumar reported from his station. "They're not here to talk." Special Envoy Patel's hologram remained steady despite the crisis. "It seems the Dominion's leadership didn't appreciate our previous discussion." "Incoming transmission," the AI announced. Text only. The message was brief. "Surrender the Aetheri and their research. You have 5 minutes to comply." Commander Hayes turned to Sarah. "Please tell me you and our guests have been working on a backup plan." Sarah exchanged glances with Valen, whose light patterns had shifted to deep, determined frequencies. "We have something," she said slowly, "but it's theoretical. We haven't had time to test it." "The theory is sound," Valen added through the translator. But it requires trust. James Rodriguez studied the tactical display, watching as the Nexer fleet moved into an attack formation that would overwhelm any conventional defense. Whatever it is, now's the time. Sarah took a deep breath. The quantum camouflage works by altering our quantum signature, but the Aethery discovered something about quantum fields. They can be synchronized, harmonized. Like a choir, Valen explained, their form brightening, many voices becoming one. Understanding dawned on Hayes's face. You want to link the entire station's quantum field with the Aethery's technology. More than that, Sarah continued, we want to link with the Aethery themselves. Their natural quantum resonance, combined with our technology and their research. She gestured to the tactical display. We can create a quantum shield unlike anything the galaxy has seen. Time to impact. 3 minutes, the AI reported. Hayes looked around the command center, meeting each person's eyes in turn. The risks. If we're wrong about the quantum harmonics, we could tear the station apart at the atomic level, Sarah admitted. If we're right, we'll rewrite what's possible. Valen finished. Hayes nodded sharply. Do it. What followed was a symphony of science and desperation. The Aethery linked hands, forming a circle in the station's core, their bodies pulsing with increasingly bright patterns. Sarah and her team rerouted every scrap of power they could find into the quantum field generators. Enemy ships launching targeting probes, James reported. 1 minute to optimal firing range. Quantum harmonics at 60%. Sarah called out, her voice strained. We need more power. Rerouting life support to quantum systems, the AI announced. Backup systems engaged. The Aethery's glow had become almost blinding, their forms barely visible through the pure energy they were channeling. Valen's voice came through the translator, weak but determined. We offer our trust and our strength. 30 seconds to impact, James announced. Multiple weapon locks detected. Sarah's hands danced across her console, making final adjustments as sweat beaded on her forehead. Quantum harmonics at 90%. Just a few more seconds. The first Nexer shots streaked across space, their quantum-enhanced weapons designed to tear through any known defense. At the same moment, Sarah slammed her hand down on the activation control. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, light exploded from the Aethery circle, racing through the station's corridors like liquid starfire. Where it touched, reality seemed to shift, quantum fields interweaving with Aethery energy in ways that defied physics as humanity understood it. The Nexer weapons struck and shattered against a barrier that wasn't quite there, their energy dispersing across quantum fields that existed in multiple states simultaneously. By all the stars, Valen breathed, their translator struggling to convey their awe. It's more beautiful than we imagined. On the tactical display, the station had become a quantum anomaly, existing in a state that the Nexer sensors couldn't begin to comprehend. Their next volley of shots passed through space that both did and didn't contain their target, the laws of physics themselves seeming to bow to the combined power of human innovation and Aethery understanding. Status, Hayes demanded. James checked his readings, then checked them again in disbelief. No damage, no penetration. The shield is perfect. More than perfect, Sarah added, studying the quantum readings with wide eyes. We're not just deflecting their attacks. We're absorbing the energy, strengthening our own field. The more they'd fire, the stronger we become. Valen finished. The Nexer fleet had ceased firing, their ships holding position as their sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. When their next transmission came through, even the translation matrix seemed uncertain how to convey their mixture of shock and dawning realization. This is impossible, the Nexer commander stated. Our weapons are the most advanced in known space. Our quantum technology is unmatched. Was unmatched, Diana corrected smoothly, her hologram now backed by the softly pulsing quantum barrier. Perhaps now would be a good time to resume our diplomatic discussion. I believe we were about to address the rights of scientific refugees under galactic law. As the Nexer fleet hung motionless in space, forced to confront a power they couldn't overcome, Sarah turned to Valen. "Thank you," she said softly, "for trusting us." The Aetheri researcher's form rippled with patterns that needed no translation. Gratitude, respect, and something like hope. "No," they replied. "Thank you for showing us that true advancement comes not from power, but from the willingness to reach across the stars and join hands with those who are different." The quantum shield continued to pulse around them, a testament to what was possible when humanity's drive to protect and innovate met with the wisdom of the stars themselves. 3 months after what historians would later call the Genesis Point incident, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Terran Aetheri Research Center, watching ships arrive for the first Galactic Scientific Summit. The quantum shield that had saved the station now served as the blueprint for a new type of defensive technology, one that protected through harmony rather than force. "Still hard to believe," Commander James Rodriguez said, joining her at the observation window. "A year ago, we were still debating whether alien life existed. Now we're hosting the galaxy's premier scientific conference." "With the Nexer Dominion's full participation," Sarah added, noting a sleek Nexer research vessel sliding into dock. Its hull was stripped of weapon systems, replaced with sophisticated scanning equipment. Amazing what a little humility can accomplish. The door whispered open as Valen entered, their crystalline form now adorned with the formal markings of Chief Scientific Liaison. The translation matrix was hardly needed anymore. Months of close collaboration had taught both species to read each other's subtle cues. "The Quantum Harmonics Lab is ready," they announced, their light patterns showing excitement. "Dr. Kumar's linguistic team has finished integrating the universal translation protocols. We're prepared to begin the next phase of joint research." Sarah nodded, remembering the frantic hours when they'd first merged human and Aetheri technology. What had started as a desperate defensive measure had opened up entirely new fields of scientific inquiry. The quantum shield wasn't just a barrier. It was a bridge between different approaches to understanding the universe. "Special Envoy Patel's shuttle is approaching," the station AI announced, along with the Nexer Science Council representatives. Through the viewport, they watched Diana's diplomatic vessel approach, escorted by ships from a dozen different species. The Nexer's attempt to seize the Aetheri's research had backfired spectacularly, leading instead to the formation of the largest collaborative scientific initiative in known space. "You know," James said thoughtfully, "when I first joined Space Command, I thought our greatest achievements would be military ones. Defending Earth, protecting our interests." He gestured to the peaceful fleet of research vessels. "Never imagined our biggest victory would come from refusing to fight." The Nexer didn't understand, Valen observed, their patterns shifting to scholarly hues. "They saw our research as a weapon to be seized. You saw it as knowledge to be shared." They turned to Sarah. "That is why we chose to trust humanity. You understand that true power comes from lifting others up, not holding them down." The main conference chamber was filling with delegates as they made their way through the station. Species that had been strangers or enemies 3 months ago now gathered in small groups, sharing ideas and building connections. Sarah caught fragments of conversations about quantum physics, xenobiology, cultural exchange programs. Diana Patel met them outside the chamber, her diplomatic uniform adorned with the new insignia of the Galactic Scientific Coalition. "Ready to make history again?" she asked with a smile. Sarah looked around at what they had built. The quantum shield still pulsed softly around the station, but it was different now. Instead of just protecting, it connected, allowing ships to safely sync with its harmonics and join the growing network of scientific collaboration. "The shield was just the beginning," she said. "We've proven that different species, different approaches to science, different ways of thinking, they don't have to compete. They can harmonize." The Nexer Science Council representatives approached, their once intimidating armor now modified to display academic achievements rather than weapon systems. The lead scientist's translator conveyed genuine respect as they addressed the group. "We came seeking military advantage, they admitted. Instead, we found something far more valuable, proof that the greatest discoveries come not from dominance, but from cooperation. Valen's form brightened, and from trust. 3 months ago, we were refugees fleeing persecution. Now we stand as equals, partners in exploration. Commander Hayes joined them, her uniform now bearing both military and scientific insignia. The Genesis Point incident will be studied for generations, she said, not for the technology we developed, but for the moment humanity proved that intelligence, compassion, and innovation are the greatest forces in the universe. As they entered the conference chamber, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had not just survived its first major galactic crisis, it had transformed it into an opportunity for growth that benefited all species. The quantum shield had started as a defensive barrier, but it had become something more, a symbol of what was possible when fear gave way to curiosity and conquest yielded to collaboration. The first session is about to begin, the AI announced. Topic: Harmonious applications of quantum field theory in cross-species technological development. Sarah took her place at the presentation podium, Valen beside her, their combined research ready to be shared with the galaxy. As she looked out at the assembled delegates, human, Aetheri, Nexer, and a dozen other species, she smiled. "Welcome," she began, "to the future we build together." The quantum shield pulsed gently around them all, no longer just protecting the station, but embracing it, a constant reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its ability to fight, but in its capacity to bring people together, to find solutions where others saw only conflict, and to reach for the stars not with weapons, but with open hands and curious minds. In the end, that was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not the technology they had developed, but the vision of what was possible when different species chose to shine together rather than struggle alone in the dark.